We are recording, so welcome everyone to our CCNP ENCORE Spring 22 class. My name is Kelly Caudill, and I am the lead instructor at Stanley Community College's Cisco Academy. We are an instructor training center and academy support center in North Carolina. We support a little over 220 schools in 17 states now, and we've been at Cisco Academy for over 20 years. I have been associated with the college for about 25, 26 years. Teach a variety of things, CCNA, CCNP, some cyber ops associate and other classes in the academy. I also run our IT Academy, which is our online portion of the college that teaches certifications that map to well-known certifications such as VMware, Palo Alto, Red Hat, Microsoft, just all of those. And so I'm going to ask real quick, if you can unmute yourself and just give me your name, what school you're at, what previous classes you've had, and maybe just throw in a hobby. For me, a hobby is I actually paint miniatures and play miniature war games. Like right now I'm playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is a really cool miniatures war game based in the Marvel universe. So yeah, I'm a geek, so I'll admit it. But I'll go ahead, Michelle, let's go with you and we'll let you start.
What else did you need?
Just name, your school, what previous classes you've had in the academy, and just a hobby.
Okay, so Michelle Campbell, previous class, Augusta Technical College. I've taken CCNA 1, 2, 3, IT Essentials, and now this course and hobby gardening. Cool.
And Michelle, thank you for the email. I don't know of any way to do any of the CCNA books in audio format. Maybe somebody in the class would have an idea, but I don't. And I use Audible extensively. In fact, right before class, I was out walking, listening to Audible book, stretching my back. So, but if I do hear of anything, I will definitely let you know. So thank you. Glad to have you here. Rodrigo? And you can unmute yourself in the bottom left-hand corner. There you go. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Well, my name is Rodrigo. I'm located in Costa Rica. I'm teaching here in different CCNA courses, and I took the DevNet Associate here and the Cyber Ops Associate. And hobby is fishing.
Okay. Rodrigo, what time is it in Costa Rica right now? What's the time difference?
It's 1 hour.
1 hour. Okay, that's not bad then. Not bad.
Are you in CST?
No, we're actually in Eastern. I guess we'd be in standard time right now. We wouldn't be in daylight time, so it's about 4 o'clock.
Yeah, for Eastern is you are 1 hour ahead.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, Corey.
I'm Corey Knowles. I teach the CCNA courses at Guilford Technical College and around Greensboro. I've done the CCNA courses and the DevNet course there at the academy. I golf and fly fish.
Cool. I like to fly fish, but I'm not sure my hands will let me anymore because of my injuries from a spinal cord injury. Speaking of which, most of you have known me for a while know I was hit by a truck in 2016 and paralyzed from the neck down while riding a bicycle. So I used to do triathlons and did Ironmans and everything, but was paralyzed from the neck down. Thank goodness I can walk and use my hands and all. Nothing works the way it used to, but it works, which is a miracle. So if you see me do something weird with my hands or you see them kind of spasm, it's probably because of my spinal cord injury. So just throw that out there in case you ever do see me in person. I always joke, I'm not drunk yet, and then just tell people that. So, all right, Nick.
I'm Nick Gaunt. Teach at Central Technology Center in Drumright, Oklahoma. Teaching cybersecurity to juniors and seniors in high school. I've been teaching for 21 years and been through all the CCNA 1 through versions 1 through 7 now. And
used to be when it was like 57 different modules, and version 1, it was unbelievable how much content they had.
Yeah, we got converted from version 1 to 2 mid swing. So and anyways, lately my hobby is trying to grow fruit trees.
Neat. I know Oklahoma is really big, but how far are you from Fort Sill, Oklahoma?
Couple hours. I mean, we're kind of halfway between Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
Okay, that's the only place I've ever been in Oklahoma, is Fort Sill. I flew into Texas on a boss lift, and we drove up to Fort Sill as part of a National Guard thing, an Air Guard thing. It was pretty neat. I got to shoot a Paladin howitzer, which was really cool. So, all right, Adrian, if you're in a position where you can unmute your phone, if you're not, just throw me something in text, and I know you're on your iPhone. So, Adrian, can you? Oh, there we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. My name is Adrian Brown. Guys, I apologize. I'm actually in transit. My son plays golf. So
Okay.
I'm currently on Fort Jackson military base here in South Carolina. So I'm trying to observe the hands-free. So I apologize.
All right, no problem. No problem. You go ahead and go back on mute then. Not a problem at all. Be safe. And Clay is still connecting, so I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but welcome, Clay. Folks, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share. And what I want to do first is tell you that this is going to be an unusual class because it's different than what you've done before. And that is not necessarily my fault or your fault. It's because this class is different compared to other Cisco classes. You'll also notice I'm actually going to turn my video off because there's no need for me to have my video on during this portion. And I had to look over to my right anyway. But you'll notice inside of Canvas in our CCNP course, there's a lot more in here than there normally is if you've ever had an ITC course with us before. And the reason for that is because there's a lot less in Netacad than what you're used to. So what I want to do first is just go over the syllabus. And for this course, it is CCNP ENCORE. And hopefully, if enough of you are willing, we will go forward and do NSA RSI in the summer, if you go forward with us. The book for this course, and by the way, there is no online curriculum. So when you go into Netacad, one of the first things you probably noticed is, where's the curriculum? The CCNP courses do not have any curriculum inside of Netacad. They have exams or quizzes, and they have labs that are available, but we're going to be using the labs off NetLab. So quite honestly, there's very little inside of Netacad. So I made the decision to use our Canvas system because I can grade things so much easier inside of our Canvas system for this. The book that does map to our modules is the CCNP and CCIE Enterprise Core Official Cert Guide. That book, you need to get your errata and go through and make sure you print the errata out and have it with you, because there are a good number of things that are incorrect in the book. So be aware of that. But I would say I do call it an optional purchase, but you probably do need to buy that book. I don't like the book all that much, and I'll tell you one reason why. When we start looking at the mapping for the exam and we look at the book has a lot of stuff in it you don't need for the exam. So I'm actually developing for you a set of pages that maps the exam objectives to the book and the pages that are on the book, so you don't have to do quite as much reading of things that you may not necessarily need. The other thing we have available for you as a student at Stanley Community College, if you go to our webpage, all right, and this is, I've got a video in here on how to do this, but if you go to our webpage and you go to Current Students Library, and again, there's a video in the class on this, so if you're not catching it and you can't see it, you can review that video. There's one little change to the video that we need to be aware of, but in the video, I'll tell you go to Resources, A to Z Database List, and then go to O for O'Reilly, and then you go to O'Reilly Media Database. And the only difference between the video that I have for you and the way it is now is it used to be, it would say select your institution, and you would click here and you would select institution not listed. They've now placed institution not listed on the very first portion here. So instead of having to go and look for it inside that list, it is just there for you. So I'm going to click institution not listed. You put in your email address for Stanley Community College, and then it will log you in to O'Reilly. Now, this is a subset of Safari Online, but now as a subset, it's still a great deal of what is there. So inside of here, if you go under Explore and go to Shared Playlists, you will find a playlist that is CCNP ENCORE. And inside of here is all the materials that I have found so far that would be useful for you in this course. One is the CCNP and CCIE portable command guide. The other is 31 days before your CCNP and CCIE exam, core exam book. So you can go through that. And last but not least is an entire video course, CCNP, CCINP course. And you can notice I was actually looking at HSRP last time I was in here. So you can actually go into this course and have full access to all of the materials for our class. So I strongly recommend that you do that. And if you don't want to buy the book, you could technically just use this and as your learning materials. Okay. So when I say read modules 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 in the syllabus, if you don't want to purchase the book, you could watch modules 1 through 5, or you could at the very least map the same concepts in here to what's in those channels or what's in those modules, which are pretty much mapping exactly here. So be aware of that. Any questions on O'Reilly? Here's something I want to tell you. You're going to have access to O'Reilly for at least a year. It's usually 2 semesters plus a summer semester. So for the next year, you have access to this. The reason I mention that is, what if you want to learn PowerShell? Ladies and gentlemen, you can go in here and just put PowerShell, and there's books on PowerShell. In fact, here's one just published. What you want to learn? Python. Okay, so let's do Python. Bunch of books on Python. There's one that just came out in April 2022, or will come out in April 2022. Will be physically published. It's already in here. What about, you say you want to learn about, I don't know if they had anything on NFTs, but they do. Yep, NFTs. So here's a book on NFTs. If you were trying to find out what NFTs were, you could go in here and you could look at a book on that. So this is a massive resource for you. I mean, it is, I just can't even tell you how big of a resource it is. I used to pay over $50 a month just for my personal access to O'Reilly. As a student at Stanley Community College, you have access to this for yourself. All right. Questions about this? Again, explore, go to your shared playlist, and find the CCNP ENCORE playlist to find the materials that we have available inside of here for you. Any questions? Any of you ever had Safari Online before?
No.
You have. So you kind of know what this is then, Nick? Have a decent idea?
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Good. Okay, it's a huge resource. I mean, a massive resource for you to use. So those are the materials there. This is the CCNP ENCORE exam, maps to it. We're looking at our student outcomes. We're going to be looking at some layer 2, EIGRP, OSPF, EBGP in a single home environment. So it's really kind of basic EBGP with communities. You do need to know about communities. We'll be looking at multicast, quality of service, VPNs, both site-to-site and remote access, looking at GRE tunnels plus IPsec tunnels, looking at wireless and wireless antennas, and also enterprise wireless. So looking at wireless LAN controllers and how wireless LAN controllers work in an enterprise wireless environment. And then we're going to have to do a great deal on this new automation items, which are things that are such as knowing Python scripts, knowing what REST is, what Puppet is, what Ansible is, understanding the north-south APIs and east-west APIs and software-defined networking, which we will all get into as part of this class. This class has a large number of labs, okay? You are in an instructor training class, so we don't expect you to do all the labs, but really looking at the labs, to do 25 of them, you're going to do most of the labs that are in here, all right? So I do ask that you do 25 of the labs in order to pass the class. Also, you must make at least a 75 or higher on the final exam, final written exam, and you must take and pass the final skills exam, which will be on NetLabs. Our week-to-week assignments, you'll notice that really week 1, I didn't even have it starting until this week, but hopefully you've been reading chapters 1 through 4. A lot of this chapters 1 through 4 is honestly just review of things we have done in the past. So looking at what is Ceph, what is fast switching, what is process switching, what are the data planes, the management and the data plane, what is, how do you set up spanning tree? Now, there is some things on different versions of spanning tree that we may have not have talked about before, multiple spanning tree. So those labs will actually come up next week when you start working on chapters 5 through 7. But these first couple chapters should not have been anything that were massively hard for you to understand. I want to make you very aware as an instructor training class, we have dates, due dates. So I would expect you to be turning in these labs sometime this week, but I do not hold my instructor training classes to a do or die due date, okay? If you miss a week, you miss a week. It happens. You're instructors, you're working full-time, I understand. The due dates are there because if you're like me and you have no due dates, you won't do anything. So I try to have due dates for you so that you can have a good idea of where you need to be in the class. Just going on through here on the syllabus, you'll notice that last week of class, you will be doing the final skills exam and the final written exam. Now, let's bump over real quick to Netacad, because what I want to show you is inside of Netacad here. Very different, of course, got to log in because it sat there too long. Very different setup than any previous class you have probably had in Netacad. And that is because inside of here, you will notice there is no content area. There's a practice and quizzes. So if you click that, you'll see, you know, that chapter 1 or module 1, it's actually chapter 1, is on packet forwarding. Here's some labs and there's a quiz, but there's no content. You have to read the book itself or watch that course inside of O'Reilly that I've given you access to. There is a quiz for this chapter. Okay, oh, went too far. There's a quiz for this chapter, but that is pretty much your quiz. There's not even really a full exam on the chapter. So not in this portion. So you will notice that it is very different. Now there are chapter exams for chapters 1 through 5. So those you will take, and those will be just like our normal exams. I will activate these. I think everyone is in the class. If you're not, as soon as everyone's in the class, I will activate these. I'm going to make it where you can take them up to 10 times without me having to re-enable them. And you can, again, it's more for learning, not necessarily just for a grade. So you'll notice this is very, very different than any other course you've been in. That is why the majority of our class information is actually inside of our Canvas class this time. So I've got the video on how to access O'Reilly. Here's your seat tokens to get into the class. So hopefully you've used your seat token. I also have a link to the Netacad site and a link to our NetLab server in case you don't want to remember those URLs, but most of you already know that. I think everyone pretty much has done the intro assignment. I've got to check that, but I think everyone's done it. If not, please get logged in and do this intro assignment for me. Otherwise, I have to drop you from the class. That's a requirement that I drop you. So if you haven't done that intro assignment, please get in there and do it for me. Questions about that? Okay. Now I want to talk to you about where you do your labs. We are going to be using netlabs.stanley.edu extensively for this course. If you haven't logged into it, I ask you today to check your login to make sure you can get in. Once you get in, the system is actually very easy to use. One of the first things you'll need to do is just make a reservation to do your lab. To do that, you will click on New Lab Reservation, Schedule Lab for Myself. You will find your course, and you will not have this 6,000 courses that I have. Find our CCNP ENCORE course, And then you will notice several things here. The two bottom ones you can skip for right now because that's your hands-on exam you will be doing later. But if you click on PMAP here, you will see that you can pick any of the labs that are available. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick observe STP topology changes. Now, one of the things we have learned via the emails that pod 1 for some reason is not resetting the VLANs and the startup config file. We will get that fixed, but I have a neat little fix for you that I'm going to show you. But when you do a reservation, I do want you to notice that you can do your reservations right now. And that was, you'll notice I used the red line for the course. Now, right now, both pods are in use, so I can't click on the red line, so I'd have to go into the future. Or I can do a reservation, can't go past, anytime in the future. There are only 2 CCNP pods right now, and that will probably be all we have during this class because we're actually getting low on rack space for pods. But you are able to pick now if it's the red line or in the future if you click on any date. The one thing I ask, if you schedule a lab, let's say, oh, I got some time. I'm gonna have some time on the 25th at 1 p.m. to do a lab, and I'm gonna submit it, okay? So now you'll notice in my list of labs, I've got one for in the future. If I realize, oh, you know what, actually I got a meeting that's been scheduled for me now during that time, I'm not gonna be able to do this lab. The only thing I ask is that you go in here and cancel the reservation. If you don't, that lab will spin up and it will be in use, and your classmates will not be able to use the lab, even though you're not in it, because it assumes you're going to be there. So if you do one in the future and you have to miss it for some reason, try to cancel it. I do know there's going to be situations sometimes when an emergency comes up and you're not able to cancel a lab in the future. If that happens, that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's part of it. Now, a couple things. One, when you're in a lab, you must always use the content from the content tab because the labs have been rewritten for NetLabs. You cannot use the content inside of Netacad. So if you download this implement VLAN routing lab here, you'll notice it does not say rewritten for NetLabs. So we do not want to use these documents. You must use the content from inside NetLabs. All right. The other thing, I told you that pod 1 was not resetting the switches correctly. So there's a little trick we've got inside of these pods that will make resetting the pods very easy. Let me see if pod 1's actually up. It takes a while for these to boot. By the way, this is real gear. So you're looking at several minutes, 5 to 10 minutes for the pods to boot. So I would give yourself that amount of extra time to do your lab. The most you can do in the lab is 4 hours right now. If we see I need to make that longer for CCNP, I will, but the current time is just 4 hours. The other thing is the last 10 minutes of your reservation, the pod actually gets reset during that time. So even if you schedule 2 hours, you've really only got roughly 1 hour and 40 minutes because it takes about 10 minutes for the boot and 10 minutes at the end. You don't have access as it resets the systems. But let's go in and show how we can fix the problem of the labs not resetting. In the switch, if you go into the switch, if you do a directory, you will see there's a directory called ENARSI. Okay, so I'm going to go into that directory, ENARSI, and then I'm going to do another dir. You're going to see there's a TCL script in here, a tickle script. This is a scripting language that can be used that they actually discuss with you in the curriculum, but there's a reset script in here. And to run it, you type tclsh reset.tcl. And then it will actually erase the startup config, delete the VLAN.dat, and reboot the system automatically for you. So I'm going to do it on D1. So I would make this something you do each time you come into the lab. Just go in and do a CD to ENARSI, and then do a TCL tickle script reset.tickle. And it will reset them for you and reboot them. And then you know the lab, the switches are reset. TCO reset tickle. Okay, and so now each one of these are now rebooting, and I will know that the pod is completely clean. I don't have to worry about anything being on my devices. With the routers, you don't have to do this because the routers will be clean for you automatically. All right. Any questions about that? So
I have one. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah.
So can we download the document for the lab, like the topology and the instructions?
Yes, most
And
definitely.
can we use and can we use like our personal lab in case?
Yes, you can use your personal lab, but I want some content also done on my net labs. That's the only way I can prove you're actually doing the lab, because this system actually goes in and keeps every single keystroke that you type in. So yes, you can use your personal lab. Especially one of the things I will strongly recommend as an instructor is that you do some of these labs on your own equipment in your classroom. Okay, so if you want to do that, that is fine. Just please do some of these in my environment. Now, if you're going to do it on your own equipment, you should use the documents inside of Netacad. Okay.
Okay.
So you should download the documents in Netacad if you're going to use your own equipment. If you're using my net labs, you need to use the documents here, and you can still download the documents because you can click right here to download it, and it will be downloaded as a PDF for you.
All right.
Okay. Now, here's something else I've done for you. You will notice inside the lab that there are pre-configs that are designed for you to drop into the lab when you're doing the lab. Now, you could go in here and copy each one of these and then paste it over. But what I did for you in our class is I have a zip file where I have gone in, and let's download it. You'll need to download this to your machine. Okay. And in this file, I have actually already gone through in every single lab. I have created a text file for that lab. So we are doing lab 212. So I would go into, I gotta open it up here. I can find it. Where'd it go? Hold on just a second. It's trying to hide from me. Here it is. So I go into my downloads where I've downloaded that zip file. I'm going to extract it here because it's trying not to extract. Extract here. Okay. Show it to me. There it is. There's my lab files. So you'll notice lab 212. So if I go in here, you'll see that I've got the config file for D1, D2, and A1. So what I can do now is go into the lab, and I've run my tickle script so I know that they're clean. So here's D1. We're going to go into config T. I'm going to go to my files that are in the zip file that I just gave you. Open it up. Control A, Control C. And then what you do is you go to the device and go right here and you do paste to terminal. And you do a Control V and paste it. And boom, it pastes in the file for you. So I've done that with every single lab in our class. So that now D1. Now the other thing I'll do is once this is done is do a do right. You know, just make sure I do right. Make sure you're saving the config. If you don't know what the do command is, do let you run any command inside of configuration mode, even if it's not designed to run inside of configuration mode. So now at this point, I've got D1 configured for the start of the lab. I can go to A1, do config T, go back to my documents, open up A1. Keeps opening on my other screen, so I have to bring it over. So I do a Control A, Control C, click the drop down, paste to terminal, Control V, paste. And by doing this, you won't have to do a whole lot of work that's unnecessary for you. Otherwise, you would have had to try to copy it out of the file and do all that work. So I went through and made it easier on you. So again, Control A, Control C, Control V. Now, I have not tested every single one of these, so there could be a mistake here or there. If you do find one when you're pasting in, let me know. They should pretty much be right, but I did do them fairly quickly. So, but you can do right there. Exit here and do right there. And now you are ready to do the lab. You'll notice how quick that was. So now you're able to take the content. And by the way, I strongly suggest that if you have dual monitors, open this in a new window and put this on one monitor, put your document on one monitor, and then put your NetLab's actual devices on another monitor. So basically at this point, I've gone through and instead of having to copy this out of your document and pasting it in, I've given you access in our class to this zip file. So again, it's under modules 1 through 4 or 1 through 5, chapters 1 through 5, and it's this file right here. Now, when you complete a lab, if a lab has any items where it asks you to fill in a text, please fill that in. I'm not even sure this one has anything in it. I think it's more of a look and see. If it does not have anything, I still would like for you to upload the document with your name attached to it so that I know that you finished the lab and I can go check it inside of NetLabs. Okay, so there is an upload for each one of these that you can do. So in NetLabs right here, at this point, if we were actually doing this lab, we would be at the point of starting discovering the root bridge. So we go to A1. And one thing I'm going to tell you about spanning tree is because of the fact that our bridges aren't necessarily, our switches are not necessarily using the same MAC addresses as when these were written. There are times when it could be that a different bridge is root than what is in the lab to start with. Once you do your configuration and reboot the switches, it should work the way the lab states inside the lab. Are there questions about how to paste in the configs that I am giving you? And again, inside these lab files, every single lab that we have that uses Cisco gear, if it's not just a pure virtualization lab, the files are in here for you to paste in. Questions about that? And y'all are being way too quiet. So either I'm doing great or y'all are clueless.
You're doing fantastic.
All right. Michelle, you're welcome. I just knew it would make things a lot easier. One thing too, we may play with down the road. And I know if I can find it, I gotta go find it. I know it's in here somewhere. I'll show it to you then. Remind me to show you CML, Cisco Modeling Labs. But this is our primary environment where we're going to be doing our labs. Again, remember the tickle script. So when you first go in, you'll notice it's going to end soon. Now, if my lab would end and I'm not done, you do have the ability to request more time, and that'll give you another 30 minutes. And I've set it up where you can request 2 additional extensions. So if you do a 4-hour lab, you actually have up to 5 hours to do the lab. Now, one thing I do ask, if you get done with the lab, so let's say I finished the lab, I'm completely done, I'm ready to move to another lab, make sure you go in and end the reservation now, instead of letting it sit there for 30 or 40 minutes with no one using it. So I'm going to end the reservation now. So one of the things I want to do at this point is I do want to show you that tickle script again. So if I do a show run or show start now, you'll notice that the startup has D1. The startup also has all the information on the VLANs or anything needed for the lab that you pasted in, which you've got that here. Okay. It also has the VLAN.dat. All right, so if you do dir, you'll see there's a VLAN.dat file on here now. All right, so if I want to clear this switch off, again, we go CDENARSI. And I can do a directory to show you that the reset script is inside that ENARSI folder. And that will survive reboot, by the way. It'll be there unless someone accidentally deletes the ENARSI folder for us. Then you can go in and just say tickle script reset TCL, enter, and boom, with no interaction from you, it erases the startup config file. And it's funny how it saves the config file first to make sure there's one there so it can erase it. Then it deletes the VLAN.dat. In your classroom, by the way, one of the places you will get into a lot of trouble is if a student puts erase /: by mistake. That will actually brick your switch. So be careful of that. That's also why instead of using the method I gave you with erase, delete / VLAN.dat, I made a decision to do this. Ooh, it may not work because of that. Let's see. That may be a problem. If it is, I will copy the tickle script out to the main folder. Let's do it here again. VLAN.dat. CLSH. So it gives me the same error message. Yep, sure does. Okay, so we're gonna have to change this. So here's what we will do. CP. Let me try it again. Copy /: \. Oh, I'll play with this. I'll get it moved. I'll get it moved over to our others. Dang, thinking the wrong thing. I'll get it moved out to the main folder for us, so that'll work. So, but we'll get that fixed. And you actually won't have to go into ENRSI. You can run it directly from the main Flash menu. So, any questions about that? And you can always do our standard. You can also just do the standard erase start until I get this fixed. You won't even have to do it with pod 2. Pod 2 is working correctly. The NetLab system normally deletes everything for you. We must actually have it set up to where the break's not enabled on the switches in the first pod. But you can delete /: God, I cannot type today. VLAN.dat. Must not be one there yet. Okay, there's not one in it, so I'm in the wrong place. Now, it does. So that's always what you can do, and then just type a reload, and you can do a reload, and same process. So y'all know how to reload switches. I don't think that's going to be a big issue for you. Or you know how to reset switches too. Hopefully it's not a big issue, because if it is, this is probably not the class for you, to be quite honest. Yeah, you could just do it that way too, Michelle. You could, I would actually say right now, until I get the tickle script out into the main folder, if you do a dir in Flash and you see the tickle script, the reset script in the main Flash folder in the root, if you see that, just run the tickle script from there and it should work. Otherwise, for right now, let's just go ahead and do an erase start and a delete the VLAN.dat and a reload. So just stick with the process I gave you until I get the tickle script moved out to the root, which I'll do that. I had to boot both sets of, I had to boot both pods and get that moved out. So I did not catch the fact that it was not deleting the VLAN.dat file for some reason. Well, I know why, because it's looking in the wrong place to delete it. So not a problem. All right. So everyone is, or at least should be aware that we are doing most of our work inside of canvas.stanley.edu in terms of where you can get access to information. Additionally, you can either read the book for your chapters or watch the video course, your choice. The other thing I want to make you aware of is how many of you have heard of David Bombal before?
No.
Okay. David Bombal is a fairly well-known guy out of South Africa who creates videos on networking and hacking and security. So it was being super slow. So I want to give you this resource because sorry, I didn't have it pulled up, folks. He has on his webpage, not webpage, his YouTube channel, an entire free CCNP course. So go to his playlist and scroll down, you will see that he has CCNP ENCORE complete course. So you can look at the full playlist, and inside of here, he goes over his experience. He goes over a lot of the different parts of what it is. He even has labs that he puts into GNS3, which, by the way, GNS3 is not technically, if you own the images, it's legal. If you don't own the images, it is definitely a little bit of a gray area. Well, no, it's illegal. Let's go ahead and say it. It's illegal if you don't own the, if you don't own it. So if you have GNS3 and you're using it, then he does have labs available. The other thing we will be working with, if any of you want access to it, it'll be a month or so before I get this up and running. But we've got Cisco modeling labs we're buying for education, CML education, and we're going to put it into our NetLab system so it can be used by our students. But this is basically a system where it looks a lot like Packet Tracer, but the difference is instead of this being a simulated item, this is an iOS V. So in other words, this is a real Cisco device. It's just virtualized. So this is iOS V, and I've actually created for every single lab in, well, not every single lab, but nearly every single lab in CCNP, a YAML file that will let you do the labs inside of CML. So it's going to be another way for you to practice. And I'm going to ask some of you if you'd be willing to use that system some to beta test it for me as we move further into class. So for this, if you don't know David Bombal, B-O-M-B-A-L, this is a good thing that would be nice that you could grab. And he does a good job even in the labs, just going through the labs and explaining the labs. So if you have any issues with a particular topic, you can get a lot of good information. for this. All right. So I recommend this if you have not subscribed to his YouTube channel. Additionally, my YouTube channel, I will be sending out the class recordings via it. Feel free to subscribe if you want to. No, most time the videos you will get will be either my class videos going out or an occasional video of me and my nephew painting miniatures and or a hunting video here and there, but very few of those, and few and far between on those. Okay. So that is the basics of our class and how things are going to work. Are there any questions on that? So basically, we're going to read. I'm going to lecture next week. I'll start the lectures and have lectures available that we can talk about and look at. And we're going to go over labs. I will find out as we move through the class, we may actually start having, and we'll probably actually have a day that we will do labs together. That we'll walk through a lab together. I usually do that in this class because it's helpful to do a lab with the class. All meetings are recorded, so if you cannot attend, they will be available via my YouTube channel, and you can review them. It is not optional to review the labs and review the meetings. You must watch these meetings. If you don't watch this, you have no clue how to even use this class, how to use the files I've given you and everything. So watching the class meeting is very important. If you can't attend it directly, then I understand. The other thing we're going to have to do is, I will say, in April, we're going to have to probably move our class meeting to Wednesdays or Thursdays. We'll talk about that because every Tuesday in April is going to be an ASC meeting, Academy Sports Center meeting for all of my supported academies. And you're going to be invited to those if you would like to go. So you're more than welcome to do that. All right. Any questions on the class format, what you've got to do, what is necessary, and what resources are available to you for this course? You know all,
I'm
see all,
good.
hear all. Like I said, that scares me because no questions at all. Okay, Michelle's good. Everybody's good. Adrian, I know you're trying to drive, so I understand. If you do have any questions, you've got my email address in the syllabus. You've also all got my email address from the multiple emails I've sent you. Please send me emails. Make sure you reach out. Don't sit out there with a question and not get it answered, because I am here to help you in any possible way that I can. All right. With that, I'm going to stop the recording.